Welcome, Yuka Roya here to the studio. Great to see you as always, Yuka.
Hi, Mark.
Global oil prices back up again amid new tensions around the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, well, last week saw a significant drop in oil prices. Well, that was short-lived, and earlier today, saw crude prices rise by about 6 to 7%. They have since come back down after Donald Trump suggested that countries were lining up to buy U.S. oil. We see here the WTI dropping below the Brent crude price once again. Now, oil futures European natural gas futures also rose today by about 6%, though still significantly lower than the over 60 euros per megawatt hour reached last month. Now, across the world, the Iran war has been a wake-up call, exposing how vulnerable economies are to market shocks through their dependency on imported energy. Some countries have moved to speed up the development of homegrown energy from renewable sources. India, for example, recently announced a new target to generate 60% of electricity from low-carbon sources by 2035. Now, for more, let's cross now to Montevideo to speak with Ramon Mendez. He's the former Energy Secretary of Uruguay and is currently president of REN21, the world's largest renewable energy network. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Now, governments have been rushing to source their oil and gas from different providers. Is diversifying fossil fuel sources not the right way to navigate the current crisis then?
Yeah, absolutely. Take for example what happened in my country, Uruguay. In fact, we have succeeded to go from about 50% of fossil fuels to only 2% of fossil fuel in the power mix, 1 to 2%. This means that 98% of our electricity is produced without the use of fossil fuels, just dependent on our natural renewable resources. This means that we are absolutely independent of the variation of the prices of oil, gas, and coal. And so this gives us not only a reduction of the cost of producing electricity, when it has been reduced by a factor of 2, but also an incredible stability over time on the cost of the electricity. And we are in fact a proof of what can happen if we try to be aware of fossil fuels. Yes, we can. It's possible, and it brings us a lot of positive impacts to our economy, not just because of climate change, just really economic positive impacts.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen. I mean, Uruguay's impressive energy transition happened under your watch when you were energy secretary there. But not all countries have the same geographical or technological advances. I mean, what made Uruguay stand out, and how can it be repeated in other countries, and what are the obstacles then?
Yeah, the most interesting point is that, in fact, today technologies are ready to deliver. It's not just a technology issue, and it's no longer a fact of the resources, capacity of the resources. Uruguay, in fact, does not have very interesting winds nor sun, and we are just using biomass waste. We're using hydropower plants, yes, but in fact, the most important difference was that we were able to make a strong change in the policy status of the country with important modification in the regulatory framework, in the market design. And this is the real reason why we created the appropriate conditions for renewables to compete in equal footings with fossil fuels. And when we do this, renewables win. So the big issue worldwide is that, in fact, expecting renewables to win in a context, in a energy system that has been designed for fossil fuels. But renewables need different conditions. There are different kinds of technologies, and so we need to create the policies and the framework in order for them to beat fossil fuels.
Now, even if the current energy crisis accelerates such a shift towards renewable energy, it's not something that can happen overnight. And especially a lot of the countries most affected by the current crisis are in Asia. How can countries like the Philippines, Indonesia and Pakistan follow the footstep of Uruguay. I mean, you mentioned that Uruguay itself wasn't rich in renewable energy sources itself, but it still managed to turn things around.
Yes, in fact, if you create the appropriate conditions, then capitals can. In our case, we receive about $6 billion investment. It's a small economy, it's a small country, but $6 billion represents 12% of the GDP. That's why in only 4 to 5 years, we receive the amount of investment we needed in order to dramatically shift the mix. And this may happen all over the world. But for that, we need to understand that we need to create the conditions. Money will flow and capital will flow and investment will flow when they are attracted by the conditions that the country is setting in order for them to come. So my comments for Asia countries, in particular the one you mentioned, not only Philippines but also Vietnam, but also Indonesia, Pakistan, is that we cannot expect renewables to win if we are just continue with the same rules of the game that were created for fossil fuel. That's fine. Until some decades ago, they were the best that we had. So that's they are the appropriate. There were the appropriate rules for that. But today, this is no longer the case.
So the war in Iran has prompted many countries and many governments to rethink their energy strategy. Europe is bringing nuclear energy back to the center of its energy strategy. Even Japan, that idled all its nuclear reactors in the wake of the Fukushima disaster in 2011, is slowly coming back to atomic power. What's the difference then between those countries and Uruguay? And do you think that nuclear can have a place in future energy mixes around the world?
Well, Uruguay is a small country, so for a small country, nuclear are not necessarily the best option. The point is that nuclear, today we understand that it's more expensive. Renewables are the best option forever. I mean, this is clear. We have a tremendous decrease in the cost of the solar cells and the wind turbines. So they are the best option. They are the clean, the cheaper option. The question is, can we have the question that everybody's making, but do they have the intermittency of sun and wind can be manageable? And so that's why people are going to nuclear, because they understand that nuclear, even if they are much more expensive, they can deliver energy all over the year. And perhaps one of the most interesting points that we proved in Uruguay is that, yes, it is possible to manage intermittency. In Uruguay, it's just the combination of different technologies, the combination. We have sun during day, but we have more wind during night, and we have hydro, which can filter the variability of wind and solar. We have biomass weight. So it's the combination of these technologies that can make the deal. If we are brave enough in order to understand that technology is ready and the solutions are ready, and yes, we can deliver a system with high shares, perhaps not 98%, but for sure more than 88%, just because of the complementarity of different renewable sources, then perhaps nuclear are not necessarily a solution, as there are more expensive sources.
Well, Ramon Mendez, thank you so much for your analysis and a different take on the current energy crisis.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
And that's it from the Business Desk.
What a fantastic guest, Yuka. Thank you very much indeed. Illuminating stuff there from our guest Ramon from Montevideo Renewables.